here. Welcome everybody to this Profitable Regeneration webinar series. We are pleased to have the Dukarts here with us today. We're gonna give them an introduction here in just a minute, but as we like to do, we're gonna start this thing off with a prayer, and Peter Jenkins is gonna offer that prayer as we get started here.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful for this day and for this opportunity we have to be gathered together this evening. Father in heaven, we pray and ask for thy Spirit to be with us, that we'll be able to learn and grow and to obtain the things that are necessary for us to continue to progress. Please help us to minister to those around us and to be good stewards of the stewardships that we have been given. We pray and ask for these things, and we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you being willing to do that. So again, we're grateful to have the Dukarts here. Just wanted to make you aware, whether you're listening to this live or you're watching the recording. Ag Steward is doing the second annual summit, and that's going to be January 16th through the 18th. The beginning of the year. The reason that we picked the beginning of the year is that's kind of the time when you have a restart, when you're able to set goals, set intentions, set objectives. And we thought, what a great way. Last year we kicked off our kind of the whole start to Ag Steward with the summit that we had, and got some wonderful feedback from that. So we have a good lineup of speakers this year, comparable to last year, comparable to these webinars that we're having. The advantage to joining the summit is that it will be interactive. It will be not only a lot of information, but an opportunity to be able to ask specific questions of the speakers. And we're going to set up some time also to be able to do some, potentially some one-on-ones with some of the key speakers that will be there. So, goals are great. I think we don't need to wait to the new year to start the goal. Like, why not start today? So that would be a good thing. Just put it on your calendar, the 16th through the 18th, approximately 10 to 2, although we may go a little bit later on specific days to make room for more dialogue and some more one-on-one. It is going to be virtual. I wish we could all gather around in one central location. But this allows us the opportunity to be able to gather from literally the four corners of the earth. It's going to be an international audience. And so encourage you to block out that time now, and thinking about setting goals and intentions. Oftentimes we complain about what we have, but we don't ask for what we really want. We're afraid to put it out there, whether that's in prayer, whether that's just vocalizing it. Because maybe we failed in the past, maybe we've met with disappointment, and thinking about today and kind of, the end of this year, the good things that have happened, what we're looking forward to next year. We have some big goals, both with the ranch and with the Ag Steward Company, as well as family goals. The more that we talk about that and the more clear we get on that, the more likely it's going to happen. Because I've found that as we vocalize the things that we want, other people then can come to our aid. Yes, there's always going to be the naysayers who are going to say, that's never possible. But that's just opposition that helps us to grow. And so use that as fertilizer, compost it, use it for your good. Don't let the naysayers be the ones who knock you off your course. So along those lines, we welcome the Dukarts here today. I'm going to read this brief introduction here. And Josh and Tara, I got to know them when they did a class at the Wine Cup Ranch. If you guys remember, I don't remember the year, but it's been within the last decade, but probably 6 or 8 years ago when you guys were guest speakers out there speaking about holistic management. And so here goes. Is your farm or ranch team pulling together in perfect harmony like choreographed Clydesdales, hitched to a stagecoach, delivering precious cargo? Or could your team be better described as a box of whistling bottle rockets randomly bursting into orbit and exploding, leaving trails of senseless noise and smoldering debris. Pew, pew, screech. That's a bottle rocket sound.
You
What if we
gotta
told
do
you-
pew pew screech.
Oh, there we go.
You gotta make it loud
Gotta
and
be a little more
obnoxious.
animated here. What if we told you that most teams are secretly screaming for a different kind of management? Without it, they're headed towards the inevitable boom, pop, fizzle, burn. That's why Joshua and Tara Dukart of Seek First Ranch have created life-changing toolkits that will show you how to ditch the smoldering punks and take back the reins. Because the truth is, management isn't what your team really wants and needs. They're craving something more. So if you'd like to be able to give your family and team the clip-clop precision and leadership that you're looking for, stay tuned. Joshua and Tara of Seek First Ranch don't see problems. What they see are solutions waiting to be uncovered. With a knack for turning chaos into clarity, Joshua and Tara have helped hundreds of families and teams from across the globe enrich their lives, their relationships, their profitability through their signature Regenerate schools and retreats. Wouldn't you love to be their next beaming success story? So with that, welcome you guys and take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love analogies, and I've always loved them. I have a background in teaching. I taught middle schoolers, and now we have kids. And so we like to create these stories. And so when we want to illustrate a point, sometimes we like to use kind of out of the box thinking with this. And so we have this concept of bottle rockets. And if I imagine most of you or all of you are familiar with bottle rockets, right? You take your punk and you light them off, and the bottle rockets make a bunch of, in my opinion, loud and obnoxious noises, the pew pew screech. And, you can aim them in this direction and you kind of never know where they're going to go. They could go straight off ahead. They usually will veer off towards the left, towards the right, or they'll spin right back. And yeah, you never know where they're going to go. They're loud. They tend to be a bit chaotic. And so we have this analogy of these bottle rockets. We've got the punk, we're holding the punk, we light the bottle rocket, they go all over the place. That's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got this totally different analogy. And so we're sitting up in the stagecoach, and I'll let Joshua finish this one.
Well, we have the reins in our hands, right? And so we have this guiding mechanism that we can use. And of course, in front of us, we have these horses, and they all have their role. They all participate in various ways. We give them a certain amount of autonomy, to be able to move and to do their work, but we're constantly self-correcting and guiding in the process. So as we're thinking about this, we're trying to find this balance of providing guidance, but not over managing that particular process with them. But we have these reins, and we honestly believe that's the other end of the spectrum, in which I know in our case specifically, we've kind of bounced back and forth at times, but needing the clarity that you talked about, Jared, when you talked about the Egg Summit and how goals were great, right? But without clarity in those particular goals, without clarity in terms of the direction that we want to go, the goals are just something that's out there that you might as well shoot a bottle rocket at and hope you hit. But if we've got clarity, we can take the reins and we can actually go someplace. And it's not that it's necessarily going to be smooth. It's not necessarily going to be a perfect path, but we can keep it within the constraints that we set most of the time if we've got clarity of where we want to end up.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do next, given those two analogies, we've got, again, the bottle rocket scenario over here, and we've got the group of Clydesdales, all in line. And so we're either holding the punk or we're holding the reins. And we are going to invite everyone to bring to mind your team. And you might be a team of one. You might be a team of two. You might be a team of three or more. You might be a team of many. So we'd like you to bring to mind your team. And we're going to ask you to identify for yourself where on that spectrum do you see yourself with your intentionality of management. Are you more toward the chaotic bottle rocket side? Or are you more toward the clip clop precision with the Clydesdale side? And once you've had a chance to reflect on where you think you are right now, the next question we'd like to ask is that where you want to be? And if it is, I suggest you keep doing what you're doing. If it's not, and we know that every day is going to be a little bit different, excuse me, but if overall, if you're identifying that you're not exactly where you want to be right now, I want to ask you the question, where would you like to go? Where on that spectrum, wherever you are, where would you like to see yourself in? And we all have with our goals from a time standpoint, where would you like to see yourself in 3-4 weeks? Where would you like to see yourself maybe in a few months? Where would you like to see yourself at this point next year?
And so as we're thinking about this from a management standpoint, I want to step back into what our story was real briefly and describe what we ran into that we didn't anticipate. You see, I had been with my particular career going back to 2005. I had a tremendous opportunity, and that was to go work for or work with a team that was very soil health focused. Back when soil health was, I mean, it's always been important, but it was just starting to get some attention at that point. And working with the Burleigh County Soil Conservation District, working with the North Dakota Grazing Lands Coalition, I was so blessed in that I had the opportunity to be a part of a team that was moving and shaking with that type of mentality and really, really putting a large emphasis on soil health. And really, that's what led us into the regenerative ranching, into that community, into that mindset, and into thinking and, more importantly, seeing things differently. And I look back at all of the places I got to go and the people we got to meet and the mentorship that we were provided. And I can't imagine our career without that. But I also realized that I was very blessed and very fortunate to have that particular background. And I know not everybody has had maybe that many resources at their disposal as they were moving into what honestly was a turning point in our career. And so I think about all those things. And as we made this transition to the ranch, I had learned so many things about the practices and the principles and the management strategies that I was so excited to just implement and apply on the land and put to use in our business and take my family along for the ride. And we did that. In 2016, we moved back to the ranch. We hit the ground running. And we had, for the first several years, it was just go, 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 go with all of these preferred or right practices and right principles and what we thought was right management until we pretty much ran ourselves into the ground. And my solution every time was we must not have the right management in place in order to make this sustainable. And I use that term sustainable loosely, but the reason I use it is because I think that conservation is one step, sustainability is another step, but regeneration is actually a step beyond that further. Regeneration is understanding that we're working with something degraded, whether it's a land resource such as your soil, whether it's a livestock situation, a financial situation, or simply something within our family. And so as we continue to try and find the next practice or the next principle to follow or the next management strategy, we just didn't get anywhere. I mean, yes, we were surviving. Yes, we got to keep doing it year after year, but we were not meeting our goals. We were not achieving the vision that we were really looking for.
I think because we had such high standards.
We did. And to be honest with you, I put a lot of pressure on myself because I knew the resources that I had at my disposal. And I basically told myself on a daily basis, if I can't make it, boy, I really have no business being in ranching, because look what I have, standing behind me and there for me. But I couldn't help but think that there was just something missing, because increasing management or doing those sorts of things, because we had moved our calving date. We were winter grazing. We were limiting the feeding. We were no-tilling. We were planting cover crops. We were adding multiple species when we added the sheep to our ranch. We were direct marketing our products. All of these things that we had learned that we assumed were steps in the right direction. And I also, and I didn't think I was naive to this, but I had heard many times that if we got the resource management part right, that the financial piece would come with it. And I think depending on your context, that might be true. It wasn't in our case. And so move ahead here till about 2 years ago. I can still remember the day I was in the tractor and I was out feeding, and I was listening to a podcast. And I've started listening to those more and more, but there was one in particular that I wanted to listen to. And this one was a friend and a mentor of mine by the name of James Rogers, which goes back to the wine cup scenario that Jared had mentioned. And he was being interviewed, and they were asking him some questions, and he made a statement that honestly, it caught my attention to the point where I had to stop the tractor, get off, and listen to it again, and honestly go for a little bit of a walk. But his comment from James was that we don't have a management problem. We have a leadership problem. And his context may have been slightly different than what I was thinking of, but it hit me that day that there is something going on in my family and in our business that has nothing to do with management, or at the very least, management wasn't the root of what needed to be corrected in our operation. But it took me about a year for me to realize that not only was there an answer in that statement, but I had to figure out what to do about it. And what really hit me here in the last probably 12 to 15 months is that as I look at my family, and as I look at the people around me, as I even look at the animals, the livestock on our place, they were craving something. And I truly believe they were craving leadership. That clarity that Jared had talked about, that direction that you maybe think of when you think of Clydesdales, pulling a stagecoach down the road, that clarity is important for our goals. But the only way to get that clarity is to step up and lead the process to actually gain that clarity, because that was the part that I wasn't doing. And I was hiding behind the right management practices, thinking that was going to be enough. And that moment for me was both incredibly humbling and incredibly empowering at the same time, to realize that lack of leadership. And it's not that I always have to lead every process or anything like that. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit about what it actually looks like. But everything around here and what's crazy about this is it wasn't just the animals. It wasn't just maybe my spouse. It was the generation that's older than me that's still here on the ranch. And it was the generation younger than me, our kids that are obviously here on the ranch with us. And everybody was craving this piece. And I don't know if they knew it, but they were needing something. And I truly believe it wasn't another management practice or principle or strategy. It was leadership.
Do you have?
So do you want to talk about that particular tool?
This one, I think we can.
Okay.
So you want to go to the tool next?
Well, right here. So what does this look like? Okay, this whole management thing, we didn't just pull out of thin air, didn't just read it in a book and, hey, this sounds great, we must be missing this. There were some realizations that we needed, and me personally, I had how was I handling things during this process? And maybe some of you can relate to this, but one of the things that I was doing was the micromanagement piece. Okay. Now, can anybody relate to that? You think you got to have your fingers in everything. You maybe don't trust that it's going to get done to the level that you want it to.
Yeah. And if to be fair too, I think there are a lot of things that fall into my set of responsibilities that I tend to micromanage also. And so a key piece of our identifying what does better leadership look like, part of that, a big part of that is identifying where are we micromanaging something that can be or should be passed off to somebody else, where somebody else should have the complete autonomy to do that. And we're going to put some parameters kind of again on what that looks like with a tool. But I think really when we realized and honed in on, we believe that the message that we send people when we micromanage, we are sending others the message, and it's oftentimes on a deep subconscious level, but we send them the message that we believe that they are not capable of doing it themselves, that they're not able to do it themselves. And we think for us to become better leaders, that's not the message that we want to be sending them. We want to, part of our personal goal and our mission is to help empower others. And for us and our team, we've got our kids. We're around our kids a lot. So we want to teach our kids how to have the ability to do the things with the autonomy, that's appropriate. So let's see. One other example we'll say, so kind of on the opposite within leadership of micromanaging. Another end of the spectrum there is when we don't give direction. So we are leading our teams and we just simply don't communicate, or we don't communicate effectively. And in that case, when we don't clearly communicate the outcomes that we're looking for, and do you want to touch more on outcomes now, or do you want to?
In a minute. Go
okay. So when we don't clearly communicate the outcomes that we're looking for, we can get to the end of the month or the end of the year or the end of the day and realize, okay, I thought we were going here and you're off going here. And this is where the bottle rocket analogy comes back, right? So people are twisting and turning and kind of going in different directions. And it's okay to go in different directions, but if we don't know, there's different ways to get to the target is what I want to say. There's different ways to get to the target. There's different ways of doing things, but if we don't know where the target is and we don't communicate where that target is clearly with our team, then our team doesn't know where they need to be in the end. So they're off here, and they're, up and over and shooting someone's eye out. Who knows?
Yeah. So let me give you an example of one of those things on our particular ranch here. We've got 3 generations. So this is the place that I grew up on, but my parents are still here, still very active in the operation. There's, of course, Tara and I, and then we have our 3 kids. And so when I realized that I was micromanaging every situation, and what came of that is people would become hesitant to take action in places that they were fully capable of taking action on the ranch, because they were afraid that they were going to do the process wrong, according to Josh. And so this was tied up in my whole management strategy of, well, here's the practice. This is what we need to do. And they were afraid of messing up the practice. And so then I realized I was so in deep micromanaging that I needed and wanted to step back. So I did, but I probably went too far and got to the point where I was so hands off that people didn't have clarity. And I was under the assumption, well, I'm giving you autonomy, right? So just go and do, and you can figure it out. That's fine. But if there's no clear outcome described or no clear result that is defined, then there's really autonomy towards what? Okay. And this is where the whole idea of when leadership is provided, then autonomy can be given. But if there's no clear outcome, it's pretty hard to have trust in someone that they're going to achieve that and do it their own way. So this whole process, and I found this with my father, which has been a really interesting dynamic, because obviously when I was a kid, I was given instructions, maybe even a list of chores to do, and I would do them and tried to do them in a way that dad did them, or tried to do them in such a way that I would achieve his approval based on what I did. Well, from day number one that we moved back to this place, those roles got flipped. And I don't know that either one of us was ready for what that kind of looked like or how it operated. So we've taken quite a bit of time to try and sort through what it was. And in the end, I can give him what I think we need to achieve. I ask his opinion, and then he asks a couple questions, and he is off to do it because he knows this landscape as well, if not better than I do. Likewise, with our kids, with that same mentality, we want them to problem solve and to learn and to develop, but we still need to give them a little bit of direction, not only maybe from a safety standpoint, but also the ability to work through the scenario and rise to the occasion and come to the particular outcome. And so one of the questions we often ask people when we're facilitating conversations, trying to help people identify what is it that you want, it is the question, what outcome are you looking for? And the idea that I want more, or I want better, or I don't want this, or I don't want this, that's not an outcome. We need something defined. And Jared, you said it, we need something in front of us, not something we're running away from, but something that's actually in front of us that we want to go achieve. And boy, we've seen some teams that when they are able to walk away from the bottle rocket standpoint, not because they're running away from the bottle rockets, but because they're moving towards the Clydesdale, let's put the reins in our hands, move forward. You pretty much got to get out of their way, because they start achieving things in relatively short time once they're able to do that.
Right.
And you want to talk about the tool?
Yes.
Next?
Okay. So we have tools for you, and so we'll give you this information. And of course, you at home, if you would like to grab these right now, you can, or just remember this link. So Joshua and I, Jared mentioned, we teach Regenerate schools. And this happens to be the workbook from one of our schools that we did within the last year. And we have 3 tools that are in here that we are going to give you access to. So either now or in the future, you can go to our website, and I'm going to give you the link, and then I'm going to give you our secret code at the end, because this is not, if you go to our website, you won't find this by searching for it. So it's seekfirstranch.com/free, FREE. And I'll say that again. And if somebody would, Jared or someone, if you want to put that in the comments or in the chat, it's seekfirstranch.com/free. Actually, I can do that myself. Seek First Ranch. Oh, you got it. Oh, you beat me to it under. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
You got it. And that is a link. I just copied it. I just put it into the browser.
Perfect.
That gets you there.
When you see that link, you will see 3 tools, and we are going to talk about the first one on there. So that one is called, it'll be a PDF, and it's called Who's on Board. And it looks like this. So if you don't have this pulled up, that's just fine, but I want to give you a visual of what this looks like. And then in case I forget to mention it, you'll also see on there some of our upcoming events, which we'll get to after a while. Oh, perfect. There we go. All right. So we are going to share with you how we use this tool and how you might want to use it for yourself. So the goal of this, or the outcome that we're looking for with this tool, is to help you facilitate and lead your team with more clarity and with more intentionality. So you can see on the left, and of course, if you have more team members, you can print as many of these off as you would like to accommodate that space. So on the left-hand column, you're going to list every person gets their own row. So each family or team member would go in one of those boxes. So in our context, we would have Joshua in one, me in another. We would have our 3 children, each in their own box. We like to be inclusive. And so we've included our kids, even though our youngest is 5 right now, and he's included too, because he's an important, helpful, contributing member of our family and our team. So we like to be inclusive with that. And then our context also, like Joshua mentioned, includes his parents. And so for the team that we've identified, we would include his parents in there also. So everybody gets their own box. And then the middle category is the talent, skills, and interest. What do we bring to the table? And I'm going to go back a step because, again, we love analogies. So the who's on board analogy, we use this in our retreat schools. We know that in our lives, it's like a boat, and it's always moving. And life is never really balanced, but we kind of go with the flow and navigate in harmony. The fact that our boat is kind of rocking and moving, and we are subject to different things that are in and out of our control, like weather, etc. So in this analogy of using the boat, we want to identify who's on board. So who's in our team, which we just did. And then we want to be intentional about making sure that we're all in this together. We're headed in the same direction, and that direction is clear, and we all understand our roles. So when we help each team member identify their individual roles within the team, we like to do that based on the talents, the skills, and the interests that they already have. And I'm going to give you another example from a blind spot in our situation when we moved to the ranch. And again, for those of you who don't know kind of our backstory, Joshua mentioned it, but when we made the decision to move to the ranch, I'm the kind of person who said, no, I will never move to the ranch. And I stuck to that for so long. I said, I will never move to the ranch. I will never move to the ranch. I will never move to the ranch. And in 2013, for various circumstances, I said, you know what? I think we should move to the ranch. So we made this shift to the ranch, and we knew that God called us here. And we believe that this is the place where we need to be. And it is. I will be very, very honest that when we did physically move here to the ranch, I struggled big time because I didn't grow up on a farm or a ranch, even though I already believed and I accepted the practices of regenerative management and soil health and caring where our food comes from. And I learned, why I should care what the animals eat if I eat the animals. I mean, I was sold on all of that. And that was a big part of why I wanted to move to the ranch, to have this kind of lifestyle and to grow our own food and to do these things here. But I did not have any prior experience of what that would actually look like for me and for my role. And so I felt like a fish out of water. And I struggled a lot. And so when we did this activity here, when we were able to pull forward, okay, what are my personal talent, skills, and interests? And none of it had anything to do with what you typically think about when you are a rancher or a farmer. I didn't know how to drive, or work any of the ranch equipment. I'm not skilled with animals. I don't consider myself to be a real big animal lover. So, and I'm not skilled at gardening. I don't have a green thumb. So I think I really struggled to be vulnerable and honest about this. I struggled because I didn't know what my role here was going to be. And so when we looked at okay, what are my talent, skills, and interests? And I'm going to tell you what mine are, and you participating in this at home, you can, fill in the blanks with what your own talent, skills, and interests are. But for me, I love writing. I have a background in language arts and teaching, writing classes. And so I love writing. And I love talking to people about the quality of food. And I love talking to people about nutrient density in our food. And I love talking to people about their health. So I love this connection of the agriculture and the food to consumers, because these consumers are our friends and family and neighbors. And so it seemed to me that, because I was able to put down, I like writing, and I like essentially marketing, and I'm interested in these kinds of things. So when you put down, your individual skills, talents, interests, see how that can fit to the role within the team. So for me, then it transitioned into, okay, well, I do the marketing. So I do the direct marketing. Of course, not every agricultural operation does direct marketing. We do. And so and we started primarily because that's a good fit for me. So as you, to be inclusive with this, you're going to want to use that middle column to list the talent, skills, interests of your team members, and then identify what roles in your operation need to be filled. If you have gaps in your operation, where it's like, oh, we really, we're lacking this, then this also helps you have the conversations about, okay, do we need to hire that out? So in our case, to help us more accountable with our books and our financial record keeping, we made leaps and bounds with progress once we filled that gap or that void by hiring an operation to come help us with that piece of it. So this activity can help you identify gaps in your operation as well. And then the last column, back to what we talked about earlier with micromanaging, to allow for me personally to give me the autonomy that I needed to be able to do my job. I needed to seek out opportunities and trainings and areas for where I could grow. And so some of that looked like mentorship. Some of it looked like just budgeting time in my schedule to learn and hone in on those skills. Do you have anything else you want to add to that for
finding mentors for specific types of jobs or parts of marketing? One of the things that this particular exercise helps us do as facilitators, and of course this has helped me from a leadership standpoint as well, but the tendency for people to do after they've listed the people in their family or their team is that when it comes to the talents, skills, and interests in filling out those boxes, they have tended to go straight to what jobs they have and what duties they currently have. And that's exactly what we're trying to get away from. If you're building a team, and that doesn't necessarily need to have to be a ranch team. It might be a basketball team. It might be a school board. It might be a different kind of team or board to lead an organization. What we're trying to do here is identify what are these people really passionate about? What do they already have talents and skills in? What are they interested in? And then let's build our team outward from that. Oftentimes it's the whole, square peg through a round hole type thing where, well, somebody's got to have that job. Somebody's got to do it. Who's going to draw the short straw? Well, let's find out what we do well first, and let's build our team around our strengths. And if there's voids in there or gaps like Tara talked about, is it because we have the wrong person in the wrong role and that's just not going to work? Or does that person simply need some more education, training, mentorship, or maybe just opportunity that we haven't given them the full reins on something? And as we've filled in those voids on our ranch for our business, it has freed up the opportunity for us to spend our energy elsewhere. And I'll be honest with you, to give up some of the things that we have done, it was like this big sacrifice for me at the onset, because I'm like, no, I can do that. I am capable of doing that. And to ask myself, can I do that job, was the wrong question. The question was, should I be the one to do that job? And the answer to that was different. And when the answer to that came back as probably not, or just a flat no, then we realized that we had to seek out another team member. And oftentimes when we have family farms and ranches, we don't necessarily always consider team members as someone outside of the family. We oftentimes will just load somebody else up, in our family with another job. And boy, once we got over that particular hurdle, it actually allows me and Tara to do a better job of leadership, because we can focus some time on that. That's a place where we needed more training, and we needed more opportunity to utilize that. And so this particular exercise is one that we keep coming back to. And it's one that we put through everybody that comes to our retreats or schools. They work through it. It's even an exercise that we use when we do facilitation work for other teams, to try and get a handle on what is it that you guys do well, and how can we really, really lean on that pretty heavy.
And we've run into this before. We thought this, sometimes we think things are self-explanatory, but they're not always. So if you are, in your context, if you are more than a team of one, and so if you have 2 or more people on your team and you fill this whole thing out yourself
for everybody else, that should be a nice little nudge to let you know that you are, and I say this with love, micromanaging. So this tool in and of itself, it seems basic, but there's a lot of power in this when you sit together around a table with your team. And it really is powerful when you talk about each other in positive terms. You get to talk about each person's strengths and in what they do well, what they're skilled at. And this can be a team building exercise in and of itself. So for us, because we want to give our kids more autonomy, here's just one idea. If this applies to any of you, if you've got younger staff members on your team, our middle son is 10, and one of his talents and skills and interests, he's very methodical, and he is very disciplined, and he's very thorough. And he's continuously asking what he can do to help. So we've put him in charge. Josh will put him in charge of a fencing project. And so Joshua gave him the outcome of what he wanted and the tools. So Jameson has the outcome and the tools, and he has the autonomy to decide when he's going to do it, how he's going to do it. And then we have an agreed upon price for what he gets paid per foot. He gets paid per foot. To tear down an old fence is what the project was.
And to allow our youngest son to contribute. He's 5. He works for our older son. And so they team up. And so the younger son is hired to help, and he gets paid by, how does he get paid? By the
well, we're still negotiating on what the 5-year-old gets paid out of the deal.
Yeah, but the 10-year-old pays the 5-year-old to contribute to the work when they're after the same outcome.
But it gives our older son the opportunity, and this is something we've tried to work in. It's giving him the opportunity now to lead. It's a project specific, but he's getting the opportunity to lead, and it's spurred a bunch more questions on his part. That now we're having discussions that we weren't having before. And I don't always have all the answers. Let's be clear about that. But I appreciate having the discussions, and some of the things that he asks, honestly, it's not a child specific question. It's a leadership based question that spans regardless of age.
And I want to be really careful because this is something that, again, if I'm recognizing my own behaviors and my own tendencies, if I were to, we've chosen something that is a level that we believe he's capable of. At the same time, if one of us were to go behind him and doing his work, the outcome is that he's taking down this old fence. If one of us came along and we did it differently or moved some things or did it on top of him, then we would be unintentionally sending him the message that we believe he's not capable. And as leaders, that's not the message that we want to send. If for any reason we noticed in this context that he was struggling, then we would come back to how can we give him this kind of leadership again, to where he gets more coaching or more training, or to strengthen that part so that he still has the autonomy and we can believe, or we trust him to do his job.
Mm-hmm. So where we're really trying to go with all of this, with this tool, and like Tara said, there's other tools on that website, that page that Jared posted in the comments there in the chat, is trying to share, like Tara said, the blind spot that we had. And it was not a management issue. We truly believe, a leadership issue. And so we've taken our retreats in our schools and we have added that layer on top of what we already have implemented. And we're a work in progress. It really is not a, hey, we've arrived type scenario. It's certainly not that at all. But we're really excited to share this piece of it, because I thought we were not naive, but I thought we had a pretty good foundation to move forward on. And we found out that it had some holes in it. And this was one of those big holes that I stumbled with, and have needed to adjust along the way.
And I think we like to be transparent, because we are coming in our place of leadership, being transparent. If it was a blind spot for us, it could potentially be a blind spot for others. And so if we can help people navigate through that, that's our goal, is to help people identify where their weak areas are and help navigate through it and empower them to be solution seeking and to reach the outcomes that they're looking for.
And I think with the regenerative space, one of the things that I've noticed when you really get people pulled aside and have a one-on-one type conversation is they maybe made a switch, in some cases, a major change in their particular approach to management, from a more conventional type approach, if you will, to a more regenerative type approach. That doesn't necessarily mean that we eliminate problems altogether, or that we eliminate hard work, or that we eliminate challenges along the way. I think we're just better equipped to handle them when we see things differently. And I think, believe it or not, I was a bit surprised with some of the things that didn't just automatically happen when I thought I was implementing the right management. And therefore, it was very humbling, still is very humbling. But I think as we learn and as we continue to implement, one of the other things that I wanted to share that was part of our downfall is we when we moved before we moved to the ranch, I was very connected to the places that I worked with and worked for, all the places that I traveled to. And I kind of got to a point where I was maybe even a little burnt out. And at the same time, just very excited to be at the ranch and wanting to focus on that for a while. But the unintentional thing that we did is we unplugged. We unplugged from our support groups. We unplugged from our people that held us accountable. We unplugged from the people that helped us brainstorm. And honestly, just the people that would bring a positive energy to what we were doing, and an excitement for the things that we were doing ranching wise and business wise, and even personally as a family. And we didn't think much of it, but it was honestly like a slow drain. And eventually we realized how empty we were because we hadn't stayed connected. And so we've worked really hard over the last probably 2-3 years well, we were going to start reconnecting about the time that COVID showed up. And that made it a little more challenging, but we didn't let that stop us. And of course, now that we're free to run again, we've tried to reconnect in a variety of ways. And we've really appreciated that. And we have noticed a significant difference in our mindset, in our decision-making, in our excitement, in energy. And so that's a part that I would really encourage people to don't get so consumed by the ranch that you don't stay connected in places that really provide benefit, probably beyond what we realize.
And because we have seen such a void in our own lives of this reconnecting, we are working toward making this an ongoing part of our Regenerate schools. We want to continue to build this community and keep this community moving forward in the direction that they want to go. And so we want to establish this mentorship and this accountability and make it tangible and easy for people to keep it a part of their lives, because it makes such a positive impact on a regular basis. So we're still in the process of navigating it, but we are working to build a continuation of our Regenerate school and retreat program to encompass this ongoing follow-up and accountability group.
We want to be able to carry the energy and the relationships that are built when you have an event, especially an in-person event. We don't want that to end, 24 hours after somebody gets home, because we go back to our normal and usual. And not that that's all bad, but we also know the benefits of being able to link arms and stay on top of things and be able to navigate obstacles when we have people with us.
Yeah, I think because inevitably, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, can relate to this. If you've ever been to a really great conference, and webinars are great too, but even more so, I think if you're in an in-person event, and if you can just picture that, and you're surrounded by all of these like-minded, positive, energetic, great leaders in the industry, and they're speaking into you, and you've got all these ideas, and you want to just go home with all this high energy and implement that, and you get back home and your suitcase is in the middle of the hallway, and you've got this, you're back to your normal and usual, and you've got the chores to do and everything else, and you take your notebook where you had all these notes and all these ideas, and it sits there. And the longer that it sits there, these great ideas that you want to implement, the more defeating it feels. And so we want to continue to give people some tools. How can you take this and continue to build that kind of momentum that you have at an event, at an in-person event or a really great series?
With that, Jared, any questions, comments?
That was wonderful. Thanks, you guys. Definitely give a virtual round of applause to Joshua and Tara. So yes, some questions that I have. I really like the quote. I think it's attributed to Peter Drucker that management is about doing things right. Leadership is about doing the right things. And that is so true. There's a lot of mismanaged companies, a lot of mismanaged ranches, but there's a lot of very well managed companies and ranches also. But I think as we're navigating through some very challenging times where it's kind of uncharted territory, leaders are what are needed. And I think the environment now in business, and specifically in agriculture, and even more specifically in regenerative agriculture, it's screaming for leadership. It needs individuals who can say, let's do the right things, and as you mentioned, in the right context for us. So is there any business too small that would not benefit from this? I mean, is there if you're a solopreneur and you're a one-man show, can you speak to that? What size of business would best benefit from this process?
I think any size can, with whatever, specifically, I think for like the Regenerate schools or retreats, or just with this concept of leadership, we all are only in control of one person, and that's ourselves. And so we need the leadership and the accountability, I think, for ourselves. And so I think with any of the things I think that we teach, we work toward, or any of the things that we teach or preach, we also, the reason we're so transparent is because we live them out as well. And if there are some kinks that we run into, we like to be transparent in talking about it, because it helps us process and progress. So I think where we like to, whatever the concept is, we like to take it and be like, okay, how can I apply this in my situation if it's just me? How can I apply this in a situation where it's a bunch of us? just like we would do with any other resource. I think we look to take it and be like, how can I, even if it's a biological context, I live over here and I'm getting advice from somebody who lives way over here. How can I take some of these principles and apply it? So I think a lot of us, a lot of these people I imagine on this webinar today are high achievers, high level thinkers, and you're problem solvers and you're solution seekers. And so you're probably very good already at taking something that you hear and being able to tweak it enough so that it fits your own context.
And I think the leadership piece too, whether you're a team of one or you're a team of many or anything in between, leadership extends beyond our own team. It extends into the conversations we have within our community. It extends into the conversations that we have when we're buying, when we're selling. And so I think we can take, there's lots of things to take from a relationship standpoint in general that applies beyond our own teams and beyond our own families. And that's really the part that we have focused on in more recent years is trying to take the valuable things that we learned from a biological standpoint and from a financial standpoint, but how do we now tie the knot on that within including the relationship piece of that? And that's where we think the leadership part has played such a critical role in making that happen, because you don't just manage people and expect the outcomes to really flourish. But if we can lead people, then I think the stakes are higher, but the benefits are even higher yet. And so I really, we've been really excited to layer over on top of our existing school this leadership piece, because it ties into every aspect and trickles down into every aspect of what we teach.
Mm-hmm. And we think this is on a whole nother level. But a big part of leadership is not the words that we say, it's the energy that we bring. It is, what kind of leadership do we want to have? Do we want to present ourselves as being calm? Do we want to have clarity? So I think, as part of the goals, and like you said at the beginning of this, Jared, vocalizing those things, speak into your team and into your community, into your family, whatever that is for you in these different contexts. Speak what energy in your leadership you want to bring. Do you want to bring more clarity? Speak that out. Do you want to bring more calm? Speak that out. Do you want to bring higher levels of awareness or of whatever that word is for you? I think when we say those words, because we know a big part of communication, we speak a lot about communication. And I was just giving a talk earlier this morning to a group of moms, but we know our from research studies, our words are 7%. Of communication, and our body language is, I think, 55%. And without doing the math, the tone is 38%. So when we lead, it's not just our instructions. I mean, as in our words, it's how are we showing up physically? What are we telling people with our body language and with our tone of voice?
What we model for others plays such an incredible role. When things, as we all know, any given day on the ranch, things can go south in a hurry, right? But how we handle that, how we model that, and this was an example here that was this last summer. We were gathering and hauling cattle off a summer range, bringing them back to the ranch. And the morning did not go well. It did not go well at all. And on top of that, Josh did not handle it well at all. And we took the first load home and we came back for the next one. And at that point, I'm not exactly sure what clicked or if someone said something to me, but I'm like, I have to change this. I have to lead through this process in order to change the outcome for today, because we're headed towards something that's just going to be a day that no one wants to remember. And I remember getting out of the pickup and walking over towards the corrals, and nobody wanted to speak to me and nobody wanted to be around me. Like everybody kind of scattered almost. And then I had the first conversation with my father, and then I went and had a conversation with Tara, and I had to work really, really hard to model what I wanted. What I thought about is, if my child is in this situation in 20 years, how do I want them to be able to handle this? And the whole idea was, well, not like I handled it this morning, that's for sure. And so I worked really hard on changing that. And I tell you what, from that point on, it wasn't perfect, but things started to click, things started to move, the animals handled better, everybody was chipping in. We were problem solving together. We were safer because of it, because nobody was upset and moving too fast or doing stuff, recklessly. And that piece of leadership, that's a day that I will remember for a long time, because it was the power of this body language and the words and the tone and how everybody responds. There's actually a movie, and it's a movie I've seen several times, but I remember a line from it. It's the movie Remember the Titans. And there was two guys in there arguing at their football camp, and they went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. In the last line of that scene, the gentleman, one says to the other, he said, "Attitude reflects leadership." And at that point, it was silent. And I've heard that, and I've heard it repeated because I've, of course, watched that movie a couple of times, but I think it does. The attitude that you have and what you model reflects in the attitude around everybody else. And if we want things to be different than where we're at, I think it starts with us. And I totally underestimated what impact we can have on each other, depending on the approach that we take.
Yeah. And
Well said.
because we don't want this part to be missed. This has a noticeable impact on the animals that we work with.
Yeah.
When we said that animals also crave leadership, you can call it something different, but I do think that they're asking, or at the very least, they will respond well when the appropriate direction and with clarity is provided. And oftentimes when they're not responding well, it has to do with the lack of those things that I just listed directly from me or whoever's handling them.
Yeah. Because animals respond to chaotic environments chaotically, and families, kids,
We're not much different.
Respond to chaotic environments chaotically. And so you choose your own word. What word do you want instead? If you don't want chaos, what do you want? And if it's calm, if it's clear, if it's safe, you speak out that word and then live it out intentionally. Mm-hmm. And the more you practice, the more that it becomes second nature. And it's made a major impact, not only for us. It's built our relationship strong. It's made our relationship stronger, all of our relationships stronger. And then we see the trickle effect in other areas of our life, financially too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. I appreciate your candidness on that. So just as we began the webinar, a neighbor called. My son texted. We've got cattle out on a fairly busy highway, and it's just getting dark. And so, again, that was my opportunity to choose to respond and not react. And actually, thank you, William. He went and filled in, and it was one yearling out on the highway, and we got her taken care of. So
good.
We get the opportunity to be leaders. A question, Josh, as you spoke, I had the question come to mind. What is the opportunity cost of micromanaging? It can be financial, it could be stress. But from your standpoint, like, what if you're not willing to step up and be a leader and you continue to choose to micromanage, what is the cost of that?
Well, I think the opportunity cost is huge, and on a simple level, it probably negatively impacts or costs plenty just in the amount of time that we're not leveraging well. Okay, in that if I got to be every place and part of everything and have a say in every process and project, I'm probably sacrificing some other things that are really in my wheelhouse, or maybe I'm well trained to do, or that I'm really passionate about doing. And so I'm sacrificing something. The second thing, on a little more deeper level, like Tara brought up, is if we're taking that opportunity away from someone else to step up. And then on the flip side, and we hear this often, is people will complain, well, so-and-so just won't step up. If we are not stepping aside once in a while so that they can have the opportunity to step up, they probably never will. And they might take a few shots at it, trying to step up. But if we step in their way every time, eventually they're going to quit. Like they're going to stop. And they might be just a good follow the rule employee, but that doesn't build, in my mind, a business that's regenerative, because we're not trying to just grow more grass or build more functionality into our soils. We want to build people. We want to regenerate people. We want to regenerate relationships. We want our finances to become stable and resilient. And so the opportunity cost when we micromanage is twofold. It's on both ends of the spectrum. One is the damage we do in the place where we're micromanaging to those people, to that activity, and not leveraging our time well. The other part is we probably are sacrificing something on the other end, and we're not getting better at leadership because we're spending all of our time, trying to micromanage. And in many cases, it's probably mismanagement in that case. And because honestly, I think of a regenerative, I've always thought this, and I may still not have the right words to put to it, but a regenerative business is a business that eventually shouldn't need me all the time. It shouldn't need me to be involved all the time. And in fact, being able to actually, if I do my job right from a leadership standpoint, it should continue to not only function, but actually get better the less and less I'm a part of it. Now, as farmers and ranchers, oftentimes we will have a hard time with that because we love this, right? This is what we do. This is, to the extent it's even our identity.
And we'll do it till we die.
And so we don't let go of some pieces. But I think the important part is that we're not just quitting something. We're actually ascending ourselves to another level, which actually should make the business better. And we're leading people upward, step by step,
creating a succession plan.
For example, you had on one of these webinars here a little while back, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but it was all about passive type income, right? Well, if we have an operation, especially a ranching operation, that's really functioning at a high level, shouldn't it kind of, at least to a certain degree, operate like a passive type of deal? I mean, the calves are growing and gaining weight on their own. The grass is growing. The soils are functioning. We're gaining value, even if it's not in our bank account, at the moment. It's all kind of biological capital that's being built. But we should be able to do those things without having to intervene at every turn and at every hour of every day. So I think it's a really good question. I had never heard it phrased like that, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity cost in micromanagement, which is directly connected to, I think, a lack of leadership.
Yeah, thank you. Good response. I appreciate that. We'll probably better go ahead and wrap it up for this session. If you guys want to stay on for a few minutes and maybe take some individual questions, we can. But again, so the website that Tara shared was www.seekfirstranch.com/free. And then tell us again what they get when they go to that website and why they should take the step to do it.
Sure. You can go to seekfirstranch.com. That is our website, and you can click on the different tabs there. So we've got a blog and we've got different things on there, but there's a hidden site that is not accessible to the public. It's just accessible to you on this webinar. So if you go to the /free, seekfirstranch.com/free, and you type in your name and email address, and it's a secure site, so your information is safe with us. You will get access to this tool that we did today. There are 2 other tools on there, both of which we do within our Regenerate retreats and retreats in schools. And then you'll also, on that same page, you'll see access to our upcoming events. So we are in Wyoming in January. We are in Montana in February. We are in North Dakota, both a virtual event and then a live event sometime either February or March. And then Texas in April. And unless I'm missing one, there's a couple other in the works, but we don't have them confirmed yet. But we will update our page. So if you'd like to get connected with us, all of those events are, some of them, well, one of them is a specific Regenerate school. The rest of them are speaking events at other workshops opportunities. So some of you might already be on the list to attend those things. But we'd love to invite people, because if we invite, and then you get to make the decision if it's the right fit for you or not, but you get to choose.
Yeah, a variety of events scattered over the next 4 to 5 months. So check it out.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. The class that I attended was great. It wasn't a boring lecture. It was interactive. It was a good opportunity to be able to learn, to be able to apply what you were teaching to our own operation. Very applicable, and just as we've seen here today in this short time that we've spent together. So
Yeah.
thank
Very
you.
much value the collaboration. So we always appreciate, we want our participants to join in our schools. We make them interactive on purpose. So
they're a lot of fun for us. So we're hoping to share that with the people that come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very good. So thank you again, Joshua and Tara. And for those that are listening to the recording, I hope you can join us. We do these on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month. We're going to continue that cadence into 2024. We also, again, the reminder, there is the Regenerative Legacy Summit is what we're calling it. It will be focused on incorporating the next generation, building a legacy business in the regenerative agriculture space. So we've got speakers like Alan Crockett, Dave Pratt, Steve Campbell, and many others, some from outside the ag industry, speaking about relationships, because that is the one thing that will break apart any business, and the importance of having strong, healthy relationships. We also have an attorney. Don't let that scare you away. He's cool. He's just a fun guy to listen to, because he's very entrepreneurial minded, and he's going to talk about some of the structures that we need to be able to make our businesses a legacy business. So that's what you can look forward to the 16th through the 18th of January. So those of you who are here live, you'll receive that. We, unlike Tara, don't have a unique link yet. So that will be in the works. For those that are listening to the recording, we'll make sure that we put it up on our website, which is agsteward.fyi. And so if you go there, there will be a link to be able to register for this summit. And it's free, tremendous value there. I mean, it's incredible value. If you were to go and to hire these individuals for one-on-ones, it would literally be in the thousands of dollars, and you get to come and listen for free. So
that's amazing.
I can attest to that. I registered and was an attendee virtually last year for the summit that you had. And I got a lot of value out of that. And you're exactly right. For that caliber of speakers and those people all in the same space is a pretty incredible deal. So thank you for putting that together, and looking forward to the summit coming up here in January, because last year I thought knocked it out of the park. So
yeah, it's set a high standard. So we're gonna do our best to just keep growing it from there. But thanks you guys, and we hope you can join us again.